Oh, it's me, Dr. Potato, the #1 potato doctor in the Western Hemisphere, I think. A lot of people wonder what they should get for their first mod, and invariably someone will ask the question, what about Botania? Oh, that old mod? All the best parts have been removed. It's not really worth the knowledge points, if you ask me, is usually a common response. But I happen to disagree. Yes, a lot has been removed, but there's so much to Botania, and I want to give a little bit of a valuation in everyone's favorite online forum. A tier list! Or should I say, I'll be ranking the different aspects of Botania specifically for Vault Hunters. So if something else in Vault Hunters does it better, sadly I'll have to rank even the best parts of Botania a little bit lower than I would like. So that's the idea behind this video. If you like it, leave a like, and if you'd be interested in a Botania progression guide or any specific builds or farms, I'd be happy to put something together. Just let me know below. So first off, we have the Pure Daisy. Now this is important for the beginning of your progression in Vault Hunters or Botania, any version of Botania. But specifically here, I'm talking about how useful Pure Daisy is to make some different things. If you look in the JEI, we can see Pure Daisy actually can create a lot of interesting things. And the most interesting, the most useful for me, is turning ice into packed ice and packed ice into blue ice. Now, there are a few other recipes here, but even just for the ice alone, I think it deserves at least an A or a B. And I think today, because it doesn't do as much, I'm going to give it a B. Now we have the Mana Fluxfield. This is kind of your Botania answer to any sort of power generation early on. It turns a mana flow into FE, or the type of redstone current that other mods will use. And I will say, if you can get constant auto mana production, this is a really useful thing to have. I would say, because you'll eventually be replacing it, I would have to give it a C or a B. But because of its simplicity, I'll probably give it a B. But we'll say C or B. Next up, we have what I'm going to say are miscellaneous lenses. The usefulness of this definitely varies, just depending on which one you're using. Overall, I would say they're very useful for vanilla. They're very useful for Botania-specific things. But overall, I have to say, I have to be honest, it's fairly niche. I would give this a C or a D. We'll give it a C, since that's the only letter I've got. Next up, we have the Orechid and Orechid Ignum. This is a way of generating the rare ores that would happen in Earth. And the Orechid Ignum is what actually makes a bunch of the different things in the Nether, including ancient debris, which can be pretty useful. I will say, this probably gets a B or an A. I don't find myself low on resources in Vault Hunters that often, but sometimes, and certainly in a Sky Vault setting, I would give this an A or even an S. So I think, just because of its mana-hungry nature, I'll probably give it a B, but it could be even an A if you're in a Sky Vault. Next, we have the Agricarnation. This is kind of, sadly, like Twerker, although it's automatic, so you can speed up vanilla crop growth in any sort of situation. So we've got some uses for this, but I would say the Agricarnation is more useful just for Botania vanilla on its own. So I'm going to give this one a C. Next up, we have the Bellthorne and Dreadthorne, and this is an interesting combination. The Dreadthorne will hurt mobs until they're down to half a heart, so you can, one-punch them. And the Bellthorne just gets rid of them completely. This does let you create some sorts of farms, especially in combination with, let's say, a zombie spawner or a skeleton spawner, something like that. However, it doesn't give player drops. So I do have to say, I would give this a B or a C. It is useful. The Dreadthorne can basically be an upgrade to most vanilla mob farms, but you're probably going to want eye spawners, so I'll give this a C. It's not looking good so far. Alright, next up we have the Bergamute. I'm showing this one in particular because in my most recent playthrough, the game sound is quite a bit too loud and, well, this guy has been bothering me the entire time. Hello there, Henry. Nice thing about the Bergamute, you just place a few, and now he's not nearly as loud. So, I don't know. Because it's fun, it's very easy, there's no downside, I'm going to give this an S. Next up, we have the Clayconia. Now, this is a very cool little flower right here. I'm going to take the Clayconia out. I'm going to take the Clayconia and put it back. Take the Clayconia, place one here, and I'll show you how this works. You just are going to throw sand, put it down here, and it turns into clay balls. And you'll find out what's happening to these clay balls in a bit. This is extremely useful in Sky Vaults, and even pretty useful, I would say, in a normal playthrough. So I'm tempted to give this one an A, and I'll probably give it an A. It's just so simple to set up. Next one, we have the Exoflame. Now, this is very exciting to me. I particularly like the Exoflame. The more that you put together, the faster smelting will happen near it. So usually, I would need to put some sort of fuel in the blast furnace, but I'm going to show you what happens if I place a bunch of Exoflames around. It smelts these iron very, very quickly, and you can set up a system that works quite nicely. I have to say, this at least gets an A in my books. Next up is the Hopperhock. Now, you saw a little bit of the Hopperhock in action before. If we drop our items here, the Hopperhock will pick it up and put it in the nearest adjacent storage container. And that can include pouches, that can include chests, that can include, I think, even some of the vault artisan stations and stuff like that. So it's quite versatile. I have to say, just for how useful it is and just vacuuming things up, this one gets an S. Next up, the Loonium. Now, the Loonium is an interesting example. What it does is it will spawn. It's very mana hungry. It takes a lot of Botania mana. But what it does is it will spawn monsters that drop dungeon loot. And you might think, hey, that's an A right there, dungeon loot. Excellent. However, something that they removed in this mod pack is its ability to drop music discs. And unfortunately, there are some Botania-specific things that are useful to get from dungeons. But overall, you really want it for those discs, so I have to say the Loonium gets a C. Moving forward, the Vincolotus. Now, this is an interesting flower that will, if an Enderman tries to teleport within, I'm pretty sure, 64 blocks of the Vincolotus, this Vincolotus will trap them next to the Vincolotus. If you don't have ice spawners, or if you don't have Cagerium, this is actually a really excellent way to turn pretty much any mob farm into an Enderman farm. So, I will probably give this a B or an A. Today, I'm feeling a B. The next up is the Hovering Hourglass. Now, this is amazing. You fill this with sand, and when the sand runs out, it will emit a red stone signal, which is great. You know, we've all made those hopper sort of, well, basically just a timer, a hopper timer in vanilla Minecraft, and this right here basically just is a one-block solution for that. I can't get over how useful this is. You can put in 1 piece of sand for 1 second, you can put in 1 piece of red sand for 10 seconds, or 1 soul sand for 1 minute. And obviously that means you can go up to 64-minute timer. It's really versatile. Super useful. I give this an S. Next up, the open crate. If you hopper into an open crate, the open crate will drop everything onto the ground, just straight from there. There are maybe limited applications of this, but that's kind of amazing. There's nothing like the open crate that I know of in Vault Hunters, period. So I'm going to give this an S, just because that's a very powerful function. Next up, the Abstruse Platform. This is another neat one. So the Abstruse Platform is very cool in the sense that you can walk through it. You can even land on top and sneak to fall down. But also, you can turn it into any block you'd like. And I have to say, just for secret bases, for aesthetics, different things like that, that's really cool. S, 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 S. Awesome. Awesome feature. Now the Alchemy Catalyst. This is one that can't be beat. Alchemy Catalyst. Oh, I have to search differently. Alchemy Catalyst does so many different things. Mana infusion. We can turn some things into other things, and this becomes a way to really get some useful things. If you need apples, this is a great way to get apples. If you need to vary your flowers, and this does happen, if you have a ton of tulips and you need oxeye daisies for some reason, this is a way to do it. Different fish, this is the way to do it. It's such a useful thing. It does take a lot of mana, but just look at this. There are 48, 96 different recipes. And look, glowberries into apples, sweet berries into glowberries. That's huge. So this, just for its sheer scope, I have to give it an S. Alright, the animated torch. This is interesting. When you give this a redstone signal, it will either toggle from left to right, or will rotate clockwise. So you can set this up to 2 or 4, up to 4 redstone outputs. I find this to be a really useful function as well, and I have to recommend using it in some sorts of things, even for music boxes, truthfully. Alright, I'm going to give this one an A. Next up, the Cocoon of Caprice. The way this works is you make the Cocoon of Caprice, and over time, whatever's inside it will grow to adulthood and come out. This can be villagers, this can be mobs, this can be animals, all sorts of things. And there are ways of making sure that it becomes a specific type of thing. Like I think if you feed it ender fruit, like 20 ender fruit, it's guaranteed to become a shulker, which, truthfully, not so useful in Vault Hunters. But, honestly, it's a great way of getting villagers, of getting passive mobs, awesome in Sky Vaults, but still, maybe interesting, maybe useful in just a regular vanilla Vault Hunters. So I think I'm going to give this a C or an A. I don't use it very often, but it is useful. I'll give it a B, just because if you're stuck and you need it, it's great. Now, the Conjuration Catalyst works a lot like the Alchemy Catalyst, but what this does is it takes certain things like redstone or glowstone or coal and doubles it. So at the cost of mana, very easy to use. When you do need it, it is excellent. It gets an S rank from me. Next up, Drum of the Wild, Drum of the Gathering, and Drum of the Canopy, and their horn variants. This essentially is going to, well, let's see. Drum of the Wild, that's going to cause crops to be harvested. Gathering, I believe that's animal goods. I think if you combine that with buckets, you would get milk from cows. You get wool from your sheep. Yeah, great things. And of the canopy, that will shear all the leaves in the vicinity. It's neat. I think this is more useful just for Botania itself, so I would give it a C or a B. It's really not bad. I'll give this one a B. Why not? Now, the Eye of the Ancients, I really haven't used this, but what it does is it counts the creatures in front of it and emits a redstone signal based off of that. I don't know of anything else that does that. I also can't right now think of any applications, so if you have an idea of what that might be used for, why don't you let me know in the comments. I've done away with it. I use it so little. Bye-bye, friend. I'll give it, I don't know, an A for uniqueness. It's an I. All right. Up next is the Fell Pumpkin. Now this one is interesting. This one is very useful. If you are ever running low, and we're going to just identify this quickly. If you're ever running low on blaze powder, well, this is a great solution. If you create a Fell Pumpkin out of mob drops and a pumpkin, and you put down 2 iron fences and a Fell Pumpkin, well, I realize I'm in peaceful mode right now, and that's not going to create anything. But it creates a blaze that only drops blaze powder. And that's honestly really quite useful in most situations, because you can just get stacks and stacks of blaze powder without having to go to a specific farm. So I think this is great. I think this is really useful. It's a great way of getting that blaze powder for your power mod, or for Botania itself. Excellent stuff. S rank. Next up is the Terra Bozu. This little guy can not only tell when it's raining, but if you give it a sunflower, it will actually stop the rain. Now, that's useful, but I guess in Vault Hunters, I don't find it terribly useful, but I don't mind the rain. I'll give it a C. You might give it higher if you just are sick of the rain. Now up here, the Extrapolated Bucket. What the Extrapolated Bucket does is, well, it's very similar to Hydro Void. You take it, you pick it up, and it will just erase all the water that it touches. However, because you can put Hydro Void on a hammer, I can't think of too many uses for the Extrapolated Bucket. I'm going to give it a C. Now next up, here is purely aesthetic, but these are the Pasture Seeds. And it's pretty neat. You can turn different spots. Ooh. Wow. That is a dramatic change. So we've got the Infested Pasture Seed. We have the Vivid Pasture Seed. This one's quite nice. I might use this in my next playthrough to add a little extra color. They're easy to use. They're kind of cool. I'm going to give this one an S rank. Next up, we have the Rod of the Depths, Land and Sea. This will turn mana into cobblestone, dirt, and water, respectively. There is another variant of the Rod of the Land that lets you place dirt in the sky. That one I would rate even higher, but because of the sheer ease of use and honestly versatility of this, I would give it an A or an S. It's not totally useful specifically for Vault Hunters. You're never really going to need to farm dirt or cobblestone. I guess there are better ways to farm cobblestone in a sky island. But because of how easy it is, and because of the variant for the land, I am going to give this one an A. Now here's the next one, the Rod of the Molten Core. I want to show you how this one works. Rod of the Molten Core. We'll take this, and I'm going to use it on that. Now we've already smelted that one block of iron, and that's going to, again, seem familiar. There's a smelting jewel that will do a similar thing. But this works quite quickly, and you might be able to use it. And, I find that jewels are a little bit rarer, and sometimes I might not have in the budget for a smelting hammer. And this might be a good replacement, so I would give this a B or an A. Give it an A today. This next one is the Rod of the Plentiful Mantle. Rod of the Plentiful Mantle. This is a neat one. If you hold it, it will show you where rare ores are nearby. Ooh! It looks like there are a bunch just below me. Look at that! There's a bunch of vault iron down here. Chromatic iron, to be specific. That's really useful. You can find these giant deposits really easily underground with the Rod of the Plentiful Mantle. And for that alone, I'm going to give it an A. Next up, Rod of the Shifting Crust. So if you have an item in your inventory and you select, shift select the item that you want to create, I can turn all of these into that block. Whoa. Oh. That's pretty neat. Now, in this case, I'm kind of creating riches because I'm in creative. So, keep in mind, you have to have it in your inventory in order to place it. But it does work with these right here. And I would say, when you're building and you're getting sick of your block palette and you want to replace it quickly, you can't beat this. This is an A or even an S. I wouldn't mind giving this an S. It's a really neat feature. Next up, Rod of the Terra Firma. This is another neat one. Let's say I want to flatten this whole area up here. Or maybe bring things to this level. That's better. Now, I have a straight pathway. Oh dear. And I've buried my ranking station. As you can see, that's really cool. Again, that works with the Rod of the Land. Quite versatile. You can really expand your platforms or even bring them back down. Neat. So, again, oh, now I've fully done it, haven't I? Let's get rid of those. Good. That said, I think that is such a strong and powerful feature. I'm going to give this an A. Next up is the Worldshaper's Astrolabe. This is quite neat, and this is similar to building gadgets where, let's say we want to make a really big wall. With this, we can. We can make it even further. It works pretty well. It takes a fair bit of mana, but once you're in later game, well, that's just quite useful to have. Naturally, building gadgets is more versatile than this, but you gotta admit, that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna give this, frankly, for its usefulness in building, at least an A or an S. Today, an A. Now the Worldshaper's Sextant. This is a similar thing, except what it does instead is it helps you measure circles. No more looking up circles. You can just put this in here and it will give you an outline. And if you're sick of looking at this outline, shift right click and it's gone. It's honestly, I use a lot of circles. I'm surprised I haven't been using this in my most recent playthrough. I'm going to give this one an S. That's just really cool. Next up, the Corporea Network. This is Botania's kind of storage system. If you place one of these and you have this whole thing set up, it sometimes will act like drawers if you have the right things. It will sometimes act like you can write into your chat and you can say, give me a stack of iron ingots, and it will give you a stack of iron ingots if you have it. It's a little cumbersome. I'd say compared to pretty much any other storage system, It's not great, but it does work, and it is quite useful in maybe early game if you want to have a sort of thing where you request specific numbers for the vaulter. And that is maybe a reason I will still give it a B, though you could argue it also gets a C, as there aren't many reasons to use it anymore. Next up, the Life Imbuer and Aggregator. What this will do, the Life Imbuer actually lets you pick up a survival spawner and put it down somewhere else. Only once it's consumed. The Life Aggregator, on the other hand, will keep that fully going. It will keep the spawner active while you're away from it. So you can just have a farm, so long as it's loaded, going in perpetuity. Again, once you have eye spawners or Cagerium, this is much less useful, but in some niche cases, can be really nice. Give it a B. Next up, a Luminizer. This is kind of Sky Rails. And this is kind of a bad example, but you click on this Luminizer, and it's set up to take me over there, and it's only one way. So you bring it over here, whee! That's neat. You know, we have elevators, we have waystones, we have different things like that. This is mostly for fun, but I'm still going to give it an A, because, you know, you can do really neat things with this, and some of those abstruse platforms. It's kind of cool. Next up, Red String. This is kind of like what you would use modular routers for, sending things over distances. Unfortunately, it only has a range of 8 blocks, but if you put a hopper into a red string container, for example, it can move it around. There are other things that it can do, but that's the main use, I would say, in storage systems, different things like that. And it's really cool, and if I only had a choice between this and vanilla, it would get an S. It's just great. But compared to modular router or pipes or anything like that, I have to give it a C. Now, Glimmering Flowers. That's what you've seen around here. When it turns to nighttime, you'll see that these emit torch-level light. And that's honestly just way nicer than a torch. I'm going to give that an S. And finally, last but not least, our tiny potato. Put this guy down, and he'll dance. Right-click. There we go. Oh, I didn't realize I could give him my item, and he holds it. That's really cute. Enjoy this little potato. Oh, that looks very strange. All right. Well, enjoy your... I'm learning something new every day. There he goes. There he goes. There he goes. There he goes. I'm going to give him a little potato. That's a funny message. All right. Well, that about does it. I've gone through as much of this as I can think of. I have to say, I love this mod. This is such a fun mod for me. If you have an idea about this tier list, or maybe there's something I didn't use in here, let me know. Put it down in the comments. And like I said, if there's any sort of farm or a guide that you would be interested in seeing for Botania, I'd love to make that if there's an interest for it. So, for now, thank you very much. Have a great week, and bye-bye.